Welcome to Municipal Affairs. All eyes in Manitoba are on March 20th, when the provincial government will be tabling its much anticipated spring budget. For municipalities across the province, though, this is more than just numbers on a page. It's about securing the funding needed to maintain infrastructure, support essential services, and drive local economic growth. Municipalities are the backbone of the province, responsible for everything from roads to water systems to recreation facilities and emergency response. But year after year, they find themselves asking for more resources to meet the needs of growing communities. So, what do they hope to see in this year's budget? More infrastructure dollars, increased support to public services, a fairer funding model? To break it all down, we sat down with Kathy Valentino, president of the Association of Manitoba Municipalities, to discuss the priorities and expectations of local leaders ahead of Budget Day. President Valentino, thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking about the most anticipated piece of legislation in Manitoba, this year, and that is Budget 2025. As president of the Association of Manitoba Municipalities, what are your hopes? What are your wants? And what are the municipalities' needs in this budget? Let's start with the wants. What do municipalities want from this budget?
Well, I think a little bit of the crazy world that we're in right now, everything I think is a little bit on a different platform. I'm gonna say moving into this budget. I know that our premier has definitely singled a strong focus on supporting Manitobans, particularly with this whole uncertainty with our U.S. tariffs, because we are hearing firsthand from some of our municipalities about the confusion and the increase in costs for Manitobans and municipalities, and we're hearing tariffs threatening jobs and disrupting supply chains and undermining a little bit of trade relationship with some of our border towns. So we understand that the premier has a strong focus on that, and that may be mentioned in part of the budget. We totally respect that. We are taking the lead of our premier as he has the U.S. trade agreements with Manitoba. But beyond the tariffs, I think that we're looking at this budget definitely through the lens of our municipalities and what their priorities are. As you know, we have just finished touring 36 municipalities across the province in January and February. Always interesting how there ends up being a common theme of what the needs and the wants are across the province with municipalities. I can tell you that we're really looking for investments provincially and federally for water and wastewater infrastructure. That's such a deficit of about $1.6 billion now in projects that are shovel ready. And we're looking for hopefully some kind of a creative priority for public safety, and obviously just some long-term predictable funding for municipalities moving forward.
So I want to pick up on that last point that you just mentioned, and that is the long-term predictable funding for municipalities. Now, I was at the fall AMM convention in Winnipeg, where the premier announced a new fund for municipalities to get, whether around capital projects, operational projects. What type of funding is AMM looking for in this budget? Because in the last provincial election, your predecessor, I'm forgetting his name right now, and that's going to really
President
come
Blight.
back. President Blight, that's going to come back and bite me in the bum here in a few seconds. But what exactly are you looking for? Is it that escalator funding that the AMM was calling for during the last provincial election?
Yeah, we are. And we welcome the premier's commitment to increasing municipal funding. Don't get me wrong at all. And that was a part of a lot of advocacy and lobby work from previous AMM and the board and executive. But providing additional funds solely on a per capita model doesn't work for all municipalities. And I think that's a message that we are really advocating. You get municipalities that are very small in numbers and small in a tax base, but they have so much road and road network of area that a per capita just doesn't help them. So that's definitely one part of the a funding model that per capita doesn't always work. And that's a message even federally when they have their grant projects. So yes, the premier committed to the 2% annual increase in the municipal operating funding. We're very happy with that. They've announced the One Manitoba Revenue Fund and the 62 million investment over 5 years. But we really need to talk about a long-term, more of a maybe the escalator we've used, or an inflation, or something that's going to keep up and identify not per capita, but also some recognized growth. And we've had some conversations, and we're happy to be able to be at the table to be creative with the government on how we can work together to find some kind of a solution, or some kind of a model that will really work over the next course of time.
Put that into perspective for myself, my listeners, for the audience who is tuning into this. What happens if municipalities don't get that predictable funding increase, or that increase to infrastructure funding? Because I've spoken to many municipal leaders, and they say that municipalities are struggling right now, and they're going to continue to struggle until a new funding model is in place. What is that in the day-to-day world? How does that going to impact Manitobans across the province of Manitoba?
Yeah, I think it impacts lots of things that we deal with in municipalities. And right now we call that we're in budget season, because we're all having to get our budgets to the government by that special date in May. So it is budget season. And so municipalities are really seeing the struggles right now. And the municipal officials are having to make tough decisions at the budget table. And some of those things that end up happening is, maybe an arena has to close their hours lessen because it costs money. And recreation, I always say it's so interesting, because recreation and sport brings communities together, but you never make money on recreation. And when you're in your budget, it seems to be the first thing that we start cutting. So that's a big aspect. And then it goes hand in hand with public safety. We want to take our youth off the streets, but then we might have to reduce hours in facilities or recreation, or not, build new infrastructure for recreation or youth. So they go hand in hand. And I mean, libraries, museums, fixing potholes. It's everything in your municipality gets affected. Everything.
Since taking over the presidency last November, when you officially became the full president, not just acting, have you had the pleasure to sit down with Minister Sala about the request that municipalities are asking for, the Minister of Finance, because he's the one who's going to be standing in that legislative assembly and delivering that budget? Have you had that conversation with him, and do you think you've been heard from a Manitoba municipal perspective?
The executive has had the opportunity, and the executive has minister meetings, and we've started those January, February, and we did have the opportunity to have a meeting with Minister Sala and his department, and we started to discuss some of these topics, as in municipal funding long term. What does that look like for escalating some kind of a dollar amount? What can we do to be creative to work together? And there was openness for us being at the table to have those discussions. So we're thankful for that. And Minister Sala did do like kind of some grassroots travels around the province through the budget process. So there was that opportunity also, that members of the executive had the opportunity to speak to him again, to discuss some of these issues. So yes, we've had that opportunity, and we will continue to have those conversations to be creative and work together with the government.
One of the big things that I'm hearing from Manitoba municipal leaders, and even municipal leaders from across Canada, and you mentioned it at the top of the interview, is the ongoing trade disputes between Canada and the United States have put a financial strain on provinces and municipalities that I don't think you and I would have had the conversation in November of last year about what we're going through right now. Are you optimistic that the province can deliver on some funding asks or funding requests with so much uncertainty that is going on between Canada and the United States, which could have drastic impacts on the local economy in Manitoba?
Yes, Manitoba is unique. So I think Manitoba has some opportunities maybe that others don't. And I think that's because of where we're situated in the center of Canada, with transport being the center port area for transportation. We also have the port that is attracting a lot of interest these days, who, even with ownership rights and being able to get the port to be an export area for Canada. And we also have a huge network with the railway. So, and we have the critical minerals in Manitoba. So I think we have a lot of opportunity to position ourselves very well in Manitoba. Will that come with uncertainty? And how will that play out? I don't know, but that makes me optimistic that we maybe have a little bit more unique opportunity of where we are situated and what we do have to offer for transportation networks and transportation hubs here in Canada. I think where we're situated is good. I do believe that, and I think that since this trade dispute has escalated, I know AMM, we've done, I think, a really good job. We've issued public statements through FCM. I personally had that opportunity, as you know, to travel to Washington to the NACO conference, which is like the counties association, and advocating for municipalities across Canada, but also for municipal voices here in Manitoba because of our uniqueness of where we're situated. So I think it's so important that Manitoba, that we continue to have those relationships with our partners and our neighbors right below us. AMM arranged for me to have some meetings yesterday with Minnesota president and North Dakota of their associations. And we want to continue our friendship and our relationships. And we have border towns and communities that are struggling, and we want to be able to help each other if we can. So we're very much actively working with that to, I mean, we're not going to make the change, but we can work together until the changes happen.
One of the, and this is a side question from the budget, but I'll get back onto the budget after this last question before I wrap up. One of the other trade challenges that municipalities are facing, particularly rural municipalities, is the canola industry. Now, I know Manitoba does not have a large canola field, a large canola sector, but I've driven through and I've seen canola in your community, so I know that it is there. Now, I've recently was at the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities, and that dominated the entire conversation. While the trade discussions are going south of the border, we still have this threat coming in from China. Have you, as president of AMM, have you, as second vice president of FCM, had any discussion around the canola industry and how it could impact Manitoba canola farmers and farmers in general?
Through the opportunity to be second vice president at FCM, it was one of the agricultural committees that we met with for more of the Midwest channel, talking about agriculture and concerns for canola, but also for their concerns on the potash side for the costs. So I think when we talk about the canola and the impact on our farmers in Canada, it goes hand in hand because they need us with the potash. So there's a flip side to this also. And we heard the concerns that they are scared of also with how much it's going to cost for the use of the potash for the fertilizers and the things that needs. So is agriculture as a whole important and a concern in Manitoba? Absolutely. Certainly is. I heard more of it when I had that opportunity at the FCM level to meet direct with the agricultural committee there. Um, and I've heard lots, a little bit more in Manitoba about the critical minerals
Yeah.
and concerns of interests of China and controlling interests of critical minerals and being cautious on how that's starting to play out.
So I want to turn back to March 20th, and that is again an important day for Manitoba municipalities. What's your hope? Give me some optimistic. You say how you're optimistic about going forward. Do you feel like the province has heard your concerns? Do you feel like municipalities will be represented in this budget, or are you taking a wait and see approach because with everything that's going on globally?
Well, I always like to say that I'm an optimistic person, and I always
Yeah,
try to
and
be a
you are.
positive
You
person.
are the most optimistic president I know there, Kathy.
So I always try to look at that through that lens first. But jeepers, with the way this world's been, I got to say I'm just going to take a wait and see approach because every day, um, how things are happening, it's affecting how we're making decisions in Manitoba, and I respect that and understand that. My hope is that municipalities are represented. I am hopeful that they will be, actually. I do. And I hope that there's discussion in the budget about public safety. And the bail reform, that's a real top priority for us in Manitoba. So, and I feel like we're really taking the lead on that. So we're hoping that there's some concrete actions and investments to advance the bail reform conversation through provincial jurisdiction and to get it to the federal level. Obviously, I hope for Manitoba municipalities for some kind of an increase continuing to happen for municipal funding. And we really need water and wastewater funding for our shovel-ready projects that are, I think, that's at 300 projects now, because we can't grow our economy if we can't get water and wastewater infrastructure going.
So you ripped off the Band-Aid. I know I said that was my last question, but I have to play in it for 2 seconds because it is an important conversation. And it is a conversation that I've been hearing not just in Manitoba, but at my recent conversations up in Northwest Territories. I heard about it in Saskatchewan. I heard about it, and that is bail reform. Now, in the Legislative Assembly, I believe it was last week or the week before, depending on when you're listening to this, all parties unanimously agreed that more had to be done on this file about bail reform, with the tragic passing of a Portage La Prairie woman uh, who should still be alive today. And I'm just going to put that there. What specifically are Manitoba municipalities looking for in this budget to address the challenges around this revolving door of bail catch and release that is going on?
Yeah, I can't thank Mayor Knox in the city of Portage enough that she's not letting this go. And my goodness, she's advocating very hard, and we are all behind her and we're supporting her for sure. But there's clearly a flaw in the catch and release system, and it's mainly attributed to the Canadian Criminal Code. So we have to continue to make headlines across Canada that these repeat offenders, they're committing these violent crimes while out on bail in our own municipalities and in our communities, and it has to stop. And it's just becoming a revolving door, and it's just costing municipalities money, and people are dying, and we have to not let this go, and we have to push so that it gets changed with the Criminal Code of Canada.
Are you looking for more ankle monitoring? Because I know that they rolled out pilot projects in Brandon. I believe it's Brandon. Don't correct me if I'm wrong there, but I know that they rolled it out in some communities across the province already. Are you hoping that that will be taken more of effect and more those ankle monitors will be out in the streets?
I think the ankle monitors, that's one tool in the toolbox. I think that the whole catch and release system needs to be looked at and addressed, and the repeat offenders. I do know that there are cities now in Manitoba that, including my own, that we're starting to collect the data monthly on these stats. Like, are these, the same call happening over and over? Is that person a repeat offender? So we're trying to collect the data to prove that this really is a real thing, and it has to change. The catch and release system has to be changed.
It certainly does. I'm looking forward to the conversation that you and I have on March 20th at the Legislative Assembly, barring any unforeseen circumstances. But right now, we will be live there. So until March 20th, President Valentino, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you very much, and safe travels to Manitoba.
We also caught up with Swan River Mayor Lance Jacobson at the most recent Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities convention to hear directly from him about what he hopes to see in this year's budget when it comes to supporting the people of Swan River and the surrounding area.
Mayor Jacobson, thank you so much for sitting down with me. Budget 2025 is expected to be delivered on March 20th in the Manitoba Legislature. What is Swan River looking for? What do they want? And what are they hoping to hear from this budget and tabled within a few days?
Very good question. But thank you for asking the question. But we're looking at, obviously, better funding, more funding to our municipalities. We have aging infrastructure that everybody knows across this whole country and the province of Manitoba as well. So we're hoping for a better funding model from the province. I know that they did give us an increase last year, but it's just still not enough. When I listened to what the minister here in Saskatchewan was telling us yesterday about how much they have given to the province of Saskatchewan's municipalities, and it's a far better deal than what we have in the province of Manitoba.
I hear that from a lot of different provinces, that Saskatchewan's kind of the envy of municipal funding.
Yeah.
But I want to specifically talk about a topic that you and I chatted about just recently, what is harm reduction. Now, the province has rolled out a few countermeasures to try to combat the issues that were going on with discarded needles in Swan Rivers. What are you looking for in this budget to help you get over that line to truly tackle this issue?
Well, on the harm reduction part of it, yeah, they're still doing with the distribution. I should say harm reduction. Manitoba Health is doing the distribution of needles and the collection of needles, but or used needles. But well, to deal with this, we need to see some commitments, as we heard from Premier Moe this morning, talking about beds or rooms for rehabilitation. We need to hear something about that. I think we got to get serious about this. Also, the other part of it is the drug distribution. What are we doing about that? How are we going to get tougher on the people that are bringing this bad stuff into our communities? And we're hearing this right across the whole country. And again, we heard that from Premier Moe this morning. So I want to hear that from our Premier in Manitoba as well.
When we're looking at the funding model that you're hoping to hear, or increase funding for municipalities that you're hoping to hear, is there a number? Is there a number that would put Swan River in a place that you would be better off on March 21st than you were on March 19th? Or do you know that number offhand?
I don't. And you know what?
Where's your CFO?
Bad on me, because my CFO would be probably poking me right now saying, yeah, it's this amount of money. And I should have been a little bit more prepared if I had known that you were going to ask me that question. But
Is it substantial?
It is, because it's not only the infrastructure that we're talking about. We're talking about policing costs. Yes. We know that urban municipalities in the province of Manitoba are paying a big chunk of money for policing costs, and we are around that $1 million mark, whereas we have municipalities that are around us that don't pay anything. And so we need to see or hear something from the province saying everybody should have to pay for policing. That's just a fair way of putting it. So,
do you feel like you're being heard? Because I know there have been, and I know this because I follow you on social media, so I know you do actively post on it when a minister does come through town. Do you feel like Swan River is going to be heard in this budget?
I have a feeling that we will be. We have. I'd be surprised if we weren't, but because of the lobbying that we have been doing on, if it's, I don't want to pick on harm reduction, but just on addictions and the drug issue and crime, I'm hoping that they have heard us loud and clear. We've had a lot of good discussions with all the ministers along the way, so I certainly hope that they have heard us, and they will have something in there for not only Swan River, because not only Swan River is dealing with this problem. There's other municipalities and other towns and villages around us that are dealing with it too. It's for everybody, for all of Manitoba.
With the state of the economy the way it is right now, with the ebbs and flows in the world global order of global tariffs, many provincial budgets are tightening their shoestrings because we don't know what's going on south of the border, and we don't know what's going on globally. Are you concerned that municipalities might be, or Swan River, I should say, might be pushed or squeezed a little bit because there's not enough money to go around to help everyone?
Well, and that is something that's in the back of our minds right now. We're working through our own budget for 2025, and it's a big concern. If the province has to pull back and we see less, if it's monies that are coming to us from the province, or if it's something to do in relation with services, unfortunately, that means that we will either have to cut those services or scale them back a little bit, because I don't think we can really increase, our taxes, too drastically, because people are consumers, and everybody that lives in our communities will be dealing with this pinch, if you want to call it, equally.
What's the one item you're looking at? What's the one item you're looking for in this budget? Is it just more infrastructure funding, or is there a specific ask that Swan River is looking for from this provincial government when it comes to this budget?
Well, when you nail it down, it's hard, because you got to look at all the pieces. I don't know to specifically say, we want to have just this one item being addressed, but it's always funding and helping us to deal with what the cost of what we're dealing dealing with, we need a new lagoon. We
The sexy stuff.
yeah, all the stuff that people go, what's that? And why are you spending money on that? We have aging facilities. We're looking at building a new arena sometime in the future. That's not happening now, but definitely we're working on that. So these things are all costing money. So the province is hearing this all from several communities in the province.
Are you going to be at budget?
I will not be at budget, but I will be watching budget.
Well, we will follow up on this discussion. I want to thank you so much, Mayor Jacobson.
Absolutely.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Councillor from the RM of Sifton, Scott Phillips, also sat down with us at the most recent SARM convention, and we asked him directly, what does he hope to see from his municipality's perspective that could help his municipality grow?
Scott, thank you so much. Councillor, thank you so much for sitting down with me at the SARM convention. You are going into a provincial budget on March 20th. As councillor for the RM of Sifton, what are you looking for that will help the RM of Sifton out?
Oh, gosh.
$1 million question.
Well, obviously, the funding for municipalities is a hot topic. It doesn't matter where you go. Everyone's got their ideas on how to do it. It's I don't think that the per capita is... They have to do it some way, but for our municipality, per capita doesn't really work. We've got 18 miles by 18 miles and 1,200 people, 1,300 people. So there's got to be other formulas to help out rural communities that are large land-based but low population. There's a lot of them in all of Manitoba that got the same problem.
Last October, you and I sat down for the cross-border interviews and also during your run as AMM Vice President. And one of the issues that you talked about was infrastructure funding. And you talk about the funding that you were just talking about for RM Sifton. What are you looking for specifically? Is it per person? Is it per infrastructure dollars? What would the RM of Sifton be happy with in this budget when it comes to infrastructure funding?
Well, a fair model.
Yeah.
And I don't know how, if all these bridges in Manitoba are at this lifespan, same as halls and rinks, where's all this money going to come from all at once?
Yeah.
It's almost going to have to be looked at for those halls and those rinks to be more of a regional aspect. But the bridges in the local municipalities, they're all going to come due at once or in a short time period. And what is the province's plan to address these? Because after 11 and 14, a lot of these bridges were compromised and some have not been fixed yet.
Yeah.
And that's 10, 14 years ago. What's the plan if we have another flood? Fortunately, at the start of this winter, we looked like, oh gosh, we're going to get it. But then we've had next to no snow. So now we're back looking at a drought situation. So hopefully we don't have to worry about that. But what is the province's plan going forward with bridge replacements in municipalities? We've got some, of course, not as many as others, but we have just a few main arteries because of the lake and the marshes. So if a bridge goes out, it's a long way route for ratepayers to get around it.
Do you feel like the RM of Sifton is being heard by this government when it comes to the issues? I know you are close friends and with some of the cabinet colleagues and also the premier in our conversations that we had in the past. But do you feel like from a municipal standpoint, from the RM perspective, are you being heard?
No, not necessarily. I would say hurt because we're the kind of the... I'll use our neighbor's sentence. We're kind of the center of it all. We're so close to Verdon. We're so close to Brandon. So we're not really hurt. We've got great growth opportunities and stuff in our municipality. We've got Enbridge pipelines. We've got oil activity. We've got large ag, great resorts. So no, we're not really hurt other than...
No, I mean, I'm sorry. I might have said that wrong, but are you being heard?
Oh, heard?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. As I said, heard.
No, are you being heard?
We're being heard. Oh, we're being heard. We've...
So for clarification, he answered the question to the wrong question I asked.
Yeah, no. Oh, we're being heard. We've got a really good council, and like our Reeves great, and we've just got such good rapport with the past government and the government we have now, and I'm very fortunate to know some of the ministers quite intimately for many years, and worked with them in the past and in the present. So they often call out all the time and say, hey, what's going on in the RM of Sifton, what's going on in Southwest Manitoba. And so we've got a good rapport with them. So yeah, they hear us. And actually this Friday at our Western Caucus meeting, we've got Minister Smart coming back out, plus MTI liaison officers coming out to answer questions. So we're when we ask, we get answers. Yeah.
So what are you looking for? What specific item are you looking for as councillor of the RM in this budget that will make you feel good about going back to the people of the RM and saying, this is going to move forward for our community?
Well, our RM needs rural water.
Yeah.
That's been a drawn out for many years, and I said that on my last interview with you, and it's gone nowhere since our last chat.
Okay.
So it's I don't know where the roadblock is. I'm doing some digging myself just because it's not good anywhere, and it has to be done. So that's when the time comes to bring that into the infrastructure in the municipality. I want the government on board to know that our Oak Lake Arm-Sifton has done their due diligence. They've started stuff, and that's what we want to be heard. But that's not going to be in this budget. This budget's going to be tight. They're in debt, and I don't know how they're going to get out of it. I don't. I'm looking forward to their budget, to their plan is. But in saying that, one thing that would really benefit our municipality on a small aspect is more funding to vet clinics.
Yeah.
The vet clinics are aging. They are,
as in like veterinary clinics, right?
The actual
Yeah.
structures. The Verdant Vet Clinic's doing big renovation now, but it's still never enough. They're doing a great job, and it is first class. But the Service Vet Clinic, we need more funds. And I just talked to the Deputy Minister or Assistant Deputy Minister of Agriculture today on it and said, I really need you guys to stress this, that your budget is, the last government gave us all $75,000. We don't expect that, but we need something, and it can't always be matched. And it's never increased. And our clinic and service is so busy, but that the vets get that, but the costs go to the board, and the funds can't keep up.
Yeah.
Like, it's as simple as, and the ratepayer might just roll their eyes, but until they see the numbers, like, the whole thing needs to be painted, scraped and painted. And we don't have that money. And as silly as it sounds, we don't. Your insurance goes up, your hydro goes up, your snow clearing goes up, your lawn maintenance goes up, your hydro goes up, everything goes up and up and up, except the funding. And so we were going to increase the funding a little bit from the municipalities, but we're not going to gouge municipalities because you can't, because they don't have the money either. So the vet clinics really need some help from the province, and I've addressed that quite religiously with Premier Canoe, Minister Salda, Minister Kostich on getting that done.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Scott, always a pleasure.
You betcha.
So
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Municipal Affairs. Now, we hope you've enjoyed today's conversation and gained some valuable insights into what is going on with this upcoming budget and what the needs are from municipalities in the province of Manitoba. Now, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform, or if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button now. It helps us to continue to grow and bring you even more great content like you saw today. Now, if you haven't already, be sure to head over to our social media pages as well and give us a follow. To learn more about the communities and people we feature on this show and all of our other shows, be sure to head over to the Cross Border Interviews website at crossborderinterviews.ca. Also, if you can, share this episode with your friends, your family, and even your community. It helps support the show in more ways than you can imagine. So, until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll be back with a brand new episode of Municipal Affairs shortly. Till then, everyone.